Michael Bettine here again for another issue of It's a Cup of Time. This time with the industrial size cup. It's cold here in the Great Lakes area, so you gotta have a big cup of hot tea for the whole day. Not today. Let's set this aside here. Today I want to talk about something that I'm sure all of you can relate to. And it's about playing two performances. In this case, the performance I did last Saturday and the one I did the previous Saturday, and how completely different they were. Unless you go into a session and you organize it so that you have a set pattern that you play, just like a rock band would have a set list, and would start with the first song and go through whatever 10 or 12 songs they do in a set and play them that way every night. Unless you do that, things probably vary more for your sessions. And for me, it does all the time. People ask me, are you working with a plan, or are you making it up as you go along, or what? And my answer always is, it's a little bit of both. I have certain ideas that I do play, but I might not play them at every session. I might not play every instrument I bring with me at every session. So there's variation there. But there are things I like to play, certain elements that I know create a certain effect in me, and I do believe in the people out there, at least, an effect or an emotion. Effect isn't the right word, but an emotion, an energy that I'm trying to get across. So there are certain things that I will play, certain melodies on the bowls, the copperclad bells, the tuned gongs. I really like melody, so I will often play the same melodies. But they will be in different places. It's not like, okay, 5 minutes in, I'm going to play this thing on the bowls or this thing on the bells. 20 minutes in, I'm going to play the tuned gongs. It varies. And there's other sort of things I like to do on the big gongs, certain things with flumies or certain atmospheric soundscape sort of things. There's certain rhythms I like to play. So there are ideas that I work with. But again, they're not going to pop up every time I play, at every session, and not necessarily in the same order or for the same time duration. So along with that, everything else is improvised. And for me, it's often a matter of following what I'm hearing in my head. What am I hearing? Or possibly, what am I feeling? Or a combination of those two. I'm hearing sounds in my head. I should start the session with these type of sounds. Now, it could be anything. I mean, I could hear a specific sound and gravitate towards any instrument that at the present moment, and this is really important, everything is real time in the present moment without forethought. So at that present moment, I'm hearing a sound and I'm relating it to a specific instrument. It could be the Jupiter gong, it could be a bowl, a bell, a shaker, whatever. So that's a big part of how I work. Yes, there are written out parts, sort of, I guess you could say they're written. Some of them, the melodies are written. There are parts that are thought out, preconceived, But it's like making a soup. I just made soup yesterday. So it's like you take a pot and you throw everything in there and you stir it up and you cook it a while. And what comes out is this. And I feel the same way. I take all these elements. I have all these instruments around me. I have all these ideas in my head, these sounds, these rhythms, these melodies. I put them all into this pot. I stir it up, and that's what comes out. Now, every time you can use different ingredients, just like making a vegetable soup. You look in your refrigerator, what vegetables do I have? Okay? And it might vary each time. It might vary by the season. In the summer, fresh vegetables are one type. In the fall and winter, they are a different type. They're more root vegetables. Okay, you can make the same recipe, different ingredients, still comes out as soup. So again, it depends. I can change my instruments, bring different gongs, bring different bells and bowls, bring other things. I put them together, I mix them up, and my session comes out. And that's how I work. So back to these two sessions. And as I've talked before, I work with alchemy, and the 5 basic elements are a big part of what I work with, although I often work with other elements. Tin, as you can see with the Jupiter gong, that is the sign for tin in alchemy. It's also the sign for Jupiter. I work with tin and copper. I work with silver. I work with the sun and the moon are big ones. I'm a moon person, but I do work with the sun also because that duality. I work with salt, mercury, and sulfur, the 3 basic alchemical elements. So I work with various things, but mainly I work with the 5 main alchemical element archetypes of air, earth, fire, water, and ether. So these 2 sessions, let's go back 2 weeks ago. Incredibly deep session. I posted something about it on Facebook, but it was incredibly deep. It was one of those unforgettable moments that you have happen. It's really hard to describe. I haven't really gone into detail about it because it's just like, I don't know what to say. It involved so much, and there was so much detail to it. But suffice to say, water was the prevailing element. And I didn't go into it and show up at the venue and set up my stuff and think, I'm going to really play the water element and concentrate on that. No, it evolved into that. And water pulled me in. And I just felt this total immersion in the water element and had an amazing visual and sensory experience with it. Yeah, maybe someday I'll talk about it. It was a very moving experience. Suffice to say, water was the big element. And I worked with water for probably over half the session, which is something I would never do. There was also earth in there, and there was air, and there's probably a little bit of fire, and there was ether at the end, but the main body of everything was water. And this total immersion in an ocean of sound. And it caught me off guard. Because, again, I don't pre-plan these things. I show up. if I have time after I've set up my gear, I kind of meditate a little. I think about things, and I put out feelers. I'm feeling the room, I'm feeling the people, I'm feeling myself, I'm feeling the energy all around. How does that inform what I'm going to do? And yeah, I'm playing, and I moved into the water element, and suddenly it was just like, bam. I mean, really, I was in another place. And I don't normally have that happen to me because I prefer to stay rooted on earth, rooted in present time, real time. And I don't let myself get carried over to the other side. I prefer to stay rooted so I kind of know what's going on, so I can direct it in some manner. But here I was just pulled completely out of things, out of the venue, out of myself, and I was immersed in water in this other realm. You can call it dimension, you can call it alternate universe, whatever you want to call it, but I was elsewhere and finding my way through that with sounds. Incredibly deep experience for me. Incredibly moving. Yeah, maybe someday I'll talk about it. I don't think I'm ready yet. So now let's move to last week. Different venue, different feeling. I'm there. I have a completely different feeling. And you know, I'm looking at my instruments. I'm looking around. I'm feeling them. Who calls out to me? What instrument is calling out? Or instruments? What sounds? What elements are calling out? And I was feeling this completely almost opposite feel of the week before, where being immersed underwater. If you can imagine just being deep in the ocean, but without a submarine, without any diving gear or anything. You were just deeply immersed in the ocean and feeling that pressure and feeling that presence of just unfathomable amount of water around you, plus other things that were involved in this, and feeling that. And the next week, I'm just kind of looking around, and I'm feeling a complete opposite sort of feel. Air. Air became the predominant element. Light. Floating above water. Something that's here, the water element was there. I could feel water, pressing down on me, where here I could feel air lifting me up. And most of the sounds I played were air sounds. Various ones. Spinning sounds, whirling sounds, lighter sounds. And there was also some water and fire. There was earth. And I almost always finish a session with ether. But sometimes I finish it with ether and then venture back into something else. So this was air. Very much air. And feeling that presence of being immersed in air. If you can imagine, you were just floating among the clouds. No plane. Again, just like the opposite of being floating deep in the water. Here you're floating high up in just the air. So complete opposite sort of feeling. And the sessions were so completely different. So what do you do? Or how do you do that sort of thing? For me, it's just, I just follow it. I just go with it. I've found that when I try to direct things, if I were to get up to start a session and it's like, I'm going to go with air. And then I'm going to do this or that, or I'm going to play this specific gong or this bell or something. It really doesn't work for me to dictate it. I always get up there, and again, I'm there, and I'm just kind of standing there. And I look at my instruments, and I think about them, and I feel them, and something just pops up. And I'll pick up a mallet, whatever type of mallet, and it's like, I'll start. But it's rarely any sort of premeditated, like, I think I'm going to start on the copper-clad bells, or I'm going to start on the number 0 gong or something. It's more of a feeling, a sense of energy that I try to tune into, and then I go with it. And then I follow it for the session. And I think a thing that you do, that you get over the years of playing, whether it's doing this sort of thing, or you're playing in a band and you're playing in clubs or theaters or big concert halls or arenas, because you've done it enough, you build up a sense of trust. Okay, this is going to be all right. If I follow this, it's going to lead me somewhere, and it will be okay. I have a deep sense of trust in what I'm doing. I mean, I've been a musician since I was 12. I mean, that's like a long time, okay? That's a very long time. And I've played thousands of gigs and rehearsals, and I've played in all kinds of places and for all kinds of crowds. And I've developed this sense of trust in myself, my abilities, and even more so in just my feeling that I can go and it will be the right path. It will be the right way. That's just me. Maybe it doesn't work that way for you, but for me it does. I've developed this incredible sense of trust that it's going to turn out because I've done it so many times before. I'm going to do it again, and I just get up there and do it. And I trust that it's going to be of a certain quality too. I don't worry about it. I don't get nervous. I know a lot of people talk about stage fright and getting nervous playing in front of people, whether it's 3 people, 3,000 or 30,000 people. For me, it doesn't matter. This is my space. This is my domain right here. This is my domain. This is my temple. When I'm in my temple of sound, I own this place. I don't worry about it. I do my thing. If people like it, that's great. If people don't like it, that's great also. I'm not out to please everybody, but I'm out to do the best I can in any given moment. And that all starts with trust. I trust myself. I trust my instruments. I trust my mallets. I trust everything that I'm going to be able to find my way. And I talk about this a lot. Narrative, beginning of story, end of story. I'm going to be able to find my way from the start to the finish and make some sort of an interesting narrative. And in both these cases, both were interesting, completely different, but interesting. And even after last week's session, somebody asked me if I was creating a narrative because they could pick up on it. They could tell that I was telling a story. So that helps me trust even more. It's like I'm transmitting this. People are getting it. I've had that happen quite a few times at the end of a session where people are talking about, are you telling a story? Are you creating a narrative? Are you playing in sections and movements with transitions in between them? People pick up on it. So I have complete trust in myself and my abilities. That's how I can play two completely different and almost opposite types of sessions a week apart and not worry about it. It's like, what's there to worry about? They're fine. And that's also what keeps me doing this, because unlike when I was playing in bands and playing the same set list over and over and over, and you play song 1, then 2, then 3, I got so bored with doing that. Playing in a band where it's by rote, and every time you get up there you go, okay, this is the first song, okay, this is the 5th song, and that bored the hell out of me. That's why I stopped doing it. A big reason. That's why I moved completely into improvised music, because there is no set list. There is no set anything. It's living in the moment, whether I'm playing myself alone or playing with other musicians. We are creating spontaneously in the moment. It will never happen again. So we better enjoy it. And that's the other thing to learn too. Let's say you played a fabulous session the last time and you did some really cool stuff, and you go like, all right, my next session, I'm going to do that again because that was so great. Well, I hate to burst your bubble, but it doesn't work that way. I know that from experience. You cannot recreate magic. Magic is a spontaneous event based upon a lot of previous work. And then that magic happens when you put in all the work and you reach that point. Again, it's a point of trust in your abilities, having those abilities, having the creativity and the ideas. But a big part is trusting all that you can play. And that magic happens. So you have that magic night and you go, this was great. I played this gong this way with these mallets, and then I moved over and played my crystal bowls and did that, and then I went to this other gong. Next week you're like, I'm going to recreate that. So you do that and you play and you're playing it and you're going, okay, let's go to the bowls. And you go, this is not happening. This is not like last week. Yeah, that's because you cannot recreate magic. Magic is a spontaneous event. You might disagree with that, but after all these years of experience in so many different things, I have found that magic is spontaneous. You can create the conditions to bring about magic, but each time you bring that magic forward, it will be different. You cannot recreate something you already did. We are not a factory. We are not making widgets, and every time we go ka-chunk, ka-chunk, we make the exact same widget. That is not the way music works, sound works, and especially this type of, whatever you want to call it, gong bath, gong meditation, gong session. I just call it a sound experience because it's whatever people want to make it. I don't want to dictate to them what they're coming to. If they think they're coming to a gong bath, fine. If they think they're coming to a concert, fine. I just present the sounds. And it's different every time. And you cannot recreate those magical times that happen. You can learn what conditions led up to those. And then you can use those conditions to create a new magical event that could be as good, better, maybe not as good, but it could still be magical, but it will be on its own. It will be its own event. So that's how I look at these two sessions. Very heavy, deep water session, very light, spacious air session. They both worked. They were both fine with me. I followed the muse. I trusted in myself. I trusted in all the years of practice and rehearsal and work that I've put into this. I trusted and just went with it each time. And the next time I play, I will do the same thing. I will show up. I will set up my gear. I will catch my breath. I will listen to myself. I listen to myself inside. And I will listen for the sounds. And I will play those sounds. And I will follow it. All right. I hope you got something out of this. I know it's a bit esoteric, but I think a lot of you people who have played your instruments for a number of years will certainly recognize things that have happened in your life. Some of you people who are brand new to this won't get it, but down the road, next year, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, you might go, I remember watching that video. I didn't understand what he was transmitting then, but now I do. Now I know what he was talking about because it's happening to me. Keep putting in your work. Work hard. I mean, none of this is easy. And if you want to be good at what you're doing, you have to put in the work. You just can't show up, throw some gongs on a stand and play, pack them up, and leave everything until the next time when you take them out again at another session, 2 months later or whatever. It doesn't work that way. You have to put in the time. There's the common theory of putting in 10,000 hours. I think it was Malcolm Gladwell wrote the book, and he was talking about you have to put in 10,000 hours to get, to a certain point of success or ability or whatever. Just put in the time. The number of hours is immaterial because each of us will move at our own pace. Some people will move quicker. Some people it'll take longer. When you just stay on the path, you keep moving forward, you keep gaining knowledge, and you keep improving what you do. That's the most important thing of all. Keep improving. So I want to thank everybody for an amazing 2023. There was a lot of hardship this year. It was kind of a crazy year in some ways, but there's a lot of amazing things. I had so much good communication with people, both on YouTube, on Patreon, on Facebook, and other social media. People emailing me or calling me, and just meeting so many people at my sessions and workshops and things like that. And thank you. You made it a wonderful year. I hope we can all meet again in person down the road. So take care.